Welcome to another edition of Dead Air Live. I'm very excited tonight to introduce us to Melita King, who's going to share some great experiences about sailing. Welcome, Melita.
Thank you very much, Jojo.
So, Melita, you have so much to tell us. I don't know where to begin, but I want you to tell us about your experiences about sailing. Did you have your first experience when you were a kid? Was it when you were grown up? Because you have so many things to tell us. And I don't know a whole lot about sailing, so we're going to find out a lot tonight. So take it away.
Okay. Well, I started sailing when I was a kid. My parents actually had an old wooden fishing boat, and my older sister and I had a day sailor. So it was a 19-foot sailboat that we would go sailing on Long Island, in Long Island Sound down in Connecticut. And so those are my first experiences sailing. And then in high school, I started teaching sailing.
Oh, you taught sailing in high school?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
So I started teaching sailing on Sunfish, which is a very small one-person sailboat. And the very first person that I taught, I was telling him, you need to step into the boat, you need to keep your weight low, step into the middle, be very careful. And he stepped off the dock onto the side of the boat, flipped the boat up, landed in the water, and I laid down on the dock and laughed and laughed and laughed, and he's swimming in the water. And I said, Chester, I never told you to step into the boat that way. And I didn't realize that people wouldn't have sort of that sense of balance in a boat and things like that. So so actually I learned probably just as much from him as he learned from me.
Well, you mentioned sunfishes. Are those the kind of sailboats that you see on the Charles River?
No, you don't really see a sunfish. You might see a laser, which is about the same size of boat. It has one sail. Usually there's just one person sailing on it. It's very shallow cockpit, so you can capsize it, you can flip it in the water, and then you can use your weight to pop it back up and keep sailing.
Okay.
So usually you sail a sunfish on like a lake or in near shore. You don't really go out
Not on the ocean when there's a lot of waves.
Not too far out on the ocean.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a day sailor.
Uh-huh.
What is that?
A day sailor is, well, it's really a boat that you're just going to go out for a day on. You're going to go out for an afternoon of sailing, and it's kind of about the size of a boat. You would go out in like a 19-foot boat for a day sail or something.
Okay.
You wouldn't necessarily go for a longer cruise on it or anything.
So there's no lights, and if you get stuck out in the evening, you're in big trouble.
Right. You just make sure that you're back, because like you said, you might have running lights on a day sailor, but not really too often. So if you're going to be sailing out at night, you want to have lights on the front, and then you have to have a running light in the back, so that other boats can see you.
And no motors.
And you might have a little motor on the back, but it depends on the size of the boat. So oftentimes people don't think that there's a lot of opportunity for sailing here in Boston. And
yes, I was going to ask you, because there are a lot of places that you want to share with us that people can check out. I think there's 4 different places you're going to talk about. There's
4 in particular. And the reason I'm going to talk about them is one of them, the Boston Sailing Center I used to work at, and I managed it.
You managed the Boston Sailing Center?
Yep, in the office.
When was this?
So this was back right after I got out of college. A friend of mine who I raced with in college, he worked there and still works there.
In sail racing?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I can talk about that in a minute too.
Okay, cool.
But the Boston Sailing Center is right on the harbor. It's at Lewis Wharf, and they have memberships, so you can get a racing membership, and you can race some of the sailboats down there on like a Thursday night. They also have cruising boats, so they have like a 37-foot boat and some larger boats. They have classes that they teach. They have group memberships, so you can join with a couple friends and use the boats throughout the summer.
Expensive?
It's not that expensive. It's certainly a lot cheaper than if you owned that boat, because they do all the maintenance of the boats and everything, and you can take them out, for the day. You could take them out, for like a weekend or whatever. So they have a lot of different opportunities there and a lot of classes. So if you've never sailed before, they can teach you how to sail, and then you can learn more about, cruising and things like that.
The great thing about sailboats is they don't use gas.
They don't. If you don't have the engine on,
Right.
it's very green.
So you're using the wind as your power. Mm-hmm. How very cool is that?
There's another place that's in Charlestown called the Courageous Sailing Center, and they are affiliated with the city. So they have a partnership with the city, and they have some boats that are set up for, they do like some blind sailing. So they'll have a skipper who's blind, and they'll have someone who is sighted who will explain to them.
Literally blind?
Yeah, yeah.
Why?
To be able to get them to go out and go sailing, and they also do racing, they do memberships, and it's a little less expensive because it's a sort of a public type of sailing
I
facility.
think that's great.
Yeah, and it's right in Charlestown.
That's why they call it courageous
So,
sailing.
mhm.
So you're saying that a lot of people who have handicaps go out in these boats because if there's a blind skipper,
Yeah, and you just have a sighted person who's going to explain to you that, you know, something's coming up and they need to tack at a certain point. But to be honest, with sailing, they can feel the wind. They can tell if there's a wind shift, oftentimes better than you know, people who are sighted.
but they can't like run
So-
from one side of the boat to the other to crank or change the sails or.
Probably not. Yeah, that would be a little bit more difficult. So for the skipper, you're moving from one side to the other. But some of the boats actually have like a seat that sort of self-tacks when they tack. That I think that community boating has. I'm not totally sure.
What are some of the commands that they give on a boat?
Well, if you'd say ready about if you're going to change direction, because you want your crew to know that the boom is going to be coming over so it doesn't hit you in the head.
You don't want, does anyone ever get hurt with the boom?
Sure, yeah, you get hit in the head. I've been hit in the head.
Does anyone ever get knocked over?
Yes, sometimes people fall off the boat. But in racing, you have to cross the finish line with everybody that you started with.
Oh,
So
else-
if someone falls off, you have to go back around and get them. Because otherwise you can't, otherwise if it was very light wind, you would just pitch all of your crew overboard, and then it would be really nice and light and you'd be able to get across the
Right,
finish line.
Right.
So,
So you have a few more places. There's a place in Jamaica
well,
Pond.
Courageous Sailing also runs the facility on Jamaica Pond. So if
Okay.
you want a really controlled environment, Jamaica Pond is pretty small, and they actually rent sailboats by the hour.
They do.
Yeah.
And what does that cost?
I think it's something like either $15 or $25 an hour. I think
That's
it's actually like
it?
15. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So you could go out for an afternoon sailing around on Jamaica Pond.
And you don't have to worry about tipping over because the boats are pretty balanced.
Those boats, it would have to be really, really windy to flip those boats over. I'd be kind of surprised. And then the other great place to sail in Boston is community boating, and that's right on the river. And
Charles River.
The Charles River, yeah. It's right over near the Hatch Shell.
And we love to see all the boats out on the river on a beautiful day. And everyone looks out and says, oh, wow, look at the beautiful day. Look at all the boats on the river. Isn't this awesome?
And wouldn't I like to be on one of those boats?
Yeah, I think I was on one of those boats. I've had very bad luck sailing.
Really?
Yeah. I've actually fallen in the Boston Harbor in the early 80s, and I got really sick because I swallowed a bunch of water.
Oh.
I was knocked off a boat. The only wonderful...
So now did you get knocked off by the boom? Or
I don't know.
you're not really sure?
I'm not really sure. I was with a bunch of people. The boat kind of tipped, and I think I just lost my balance and fell off. My most rewarding experience on a sailing boat was with Rich Schieferdecker, one of our crew members here.
Yeah.
And he was really gracious and gentle on the boat, and he had a lot of awareness. So it was a wonderful ride, and it was really laid back, and that's the way sailing should be. It should be fun. You shouldn't be stressed.
And now where did you go sailing with Rich?
I don't know. Rich, where did we go sailing? I don't know.
Did you
It
go
was
sailing on the river?
it was somewhere in Massachusetts. That's all I know. I think it was south of here. It wasn't nearby. I think it was on the ocean. Do you know where it was? Cameraman, can you find?
It was Hingham.
Hingham. It was in
Okay.
Hingham. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. And we went with Scott Bowden. He's one of the guys here, and a couple of people from Somerville Producers Group.
Now, does Rich have a boat there?
Rich had a boat. Rich sold his boat. And I think Rich is
Oh,
very
okay.
sad about that. Are you sad, Rich? Rich, are you sad about selling your boat? So, yes, he is. Very sad, yes. But maybe you could hook us all up on a sailboat this summer.
Yeah.
Because that's up to you, since you are the sailing queen guru. Do you still have your connections?
Yeah.
You do? Did you hear that, Rich? We're going to go sailing with Melita. Yes.
Well, why don't we right now,
And Scott. Go
as
ahead.
they're all hollering in
Yes.
the other room, we could look at a clip of some people sailing on Boston Harbor.
Okay.
So we could look at that right now and
Great.
talk a little bit about it, and
Super.
you can relive, I guess not some of your bad days, but maybe you can relive the
no, it wasn't good.
sailing with Rich.
But
in
I'm
Hingham
living
Harbor.
vicariously through you, and it sounds like it's a good time.
It is. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun. So.
And you're a fun girl, so I hear. I mean, everyone says Melita's a fun girl. The crew is laughing. Gentlemen, I didn't mean anything bad by that. Melita's a good girl. Oh, wow.
So here sailing in Boston Harbor. And is
This
this
is
anything like
great.
any of the boats you were on?
Yeah, only the boat I was on tipped over, and so
Oh, you capsized.
that's what it was. And
Yeah.
a few times.
So
Yeah.
you are a fairly small boat.
I got very sick.
Did you get seasick?
No, I got sick from
drinking the
water. The water at Boston Harbor was not very clean back then. Now Boston Harbor's quite nice.
Yeah, it's a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure actually what year this is, but I was saying when I was looking at this earlier that that these people should be hiking out because you can see the boat heeling up a lot. So being a racer, I think they should be leaning out.
When you
and
say
balancing.
heeling, it's like on its edge?
Yeah, heeling is when the boat tips up like that. And so what you want to do is now they're leaning out. You want to use your weight as you lean out.
Oh, so your weight is how you...
You balance that boat, yeah. So you
So-
lean out and use your weight to do that.
Okay, this is very cool. So where are we going to go sailing this summer?
We're going to go sailing on the river. We'll
On
go
the
sailing
Charles
on
River?
The Charles River.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're going to have an outing with our film group here.
Okay, that sounds good.
This sounds great.
Maybe we'll go sailing on the harbor. Would you be game for that?
Yes, I would be game. I would trust it with you because I know that you're experienced and you wouldn't let any harm come to me.
That's right, I agree.
Because you are a
But
very
you would
kind...
have to wear your life jacket.
Not only are you a fun girl, you're a kind girl.
But you have to wear your life jacket.
I will do that, yeah. So what's going on here?
So, well, I think we're looking at the whaler now because the cameraman's having a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, is
And
the water
so-
shaky that the cameraman can't keep the camera still?
No, I think that the cameraman is also running the whaler.
Oh.
Actually, it looks like he's in a rubber inflatable.
Do you think he has a camera on his hat? Like one of those,
Oh, so that boat just tacked? No, I don't.
Wait, stop. You just said that boat just tacked. What does that mean?
It means they changed direction.
Oh.
So they were going in the same direction as these two other boats.
There's the Spirit of
they
Boston,
Changed direction.
the party boat.
Yeah. No, I don't think he has it on his hat because I think this was shot quite a few years ago. Or it looks like it was shot a few years ago, so I'm not so sure that they would have had hat
Right, I'm
cameras.
trying to figure out what buildings are there. Trying to identify Boston Harbor.
Well, I think if it pans a little bit to the left, you can see the bridge.
The Mystic Bridge?
No, the Tobin Bridge.
Those balls in the water, are those buoys?
Yeah, they're racing, it looks like.
And they have to like
So-
stay around the
So they're
perimeter.
gonna, so see, he's gonna attack. He just changed direction,
Wow, look at that.
and now they're going around these buoys.
It looks like he's going to tip over.
So now they're getting ready to go downwind. And so see those poles that they're getting out? They're getting out
Yeah.
those so that they can put up their spinnakers, which are these big, fat, colorful sails.
I had
So see that sail going out now?
Yes.
There we go. That's their spinnaker.
I had an experience where I got also very, very sick on a sailboat, and they had to hold me by the seat of my pants. I was like the whole trip I was just sick.
Oh,
Yeah, so I
awful.
haven't good experiences on
And
the
yet you're
water.
still game to go out? That's great.
Yeah, well,
JoJo.
yeah, it's easier. It's easier when you get a little bit older because there's like no fear. Even though they say you're fearless when you're young,
Yeah.
I know my mother's watching this. She might say, "Oh my God, I hope she doesn't take any chances." Joanne, don't, Ma, I'm watching you. Don't worry, I won't take any chances on the water.
I won't let anything to happen to you,
I
Jojo.
know you won't. So how long do boat races or sailboat races last? Do they last all day? Are they a half a day, an hour?
It depends on the size of the boat. So I race boats they're called a snipe, and a race would typically last about an hour,
Okay.
and you do about 6 races. A little shorter than an hour, and you do about 6 races, or
And
5 or 6 races.
When
in
you
a day.
say you do 6 races, there's a starting point? Is there like, and there's a horn that goes, "Arr!"
Yeah. So you would have buoys, and then
Yeah.
like they had on there, and then you'd have a starting gun, and then you race up to the first mark. So you race upwind, and then you go downwind to a jibe mark, and then from there you go down to the leeward mark, and then usually back up to finish in the middle if it's a smaller
Right.
dinghy boat, which is probably what they're doing now too, as well. So they're going to sail downwind to their next mark, and then they'll probably sail back up to the finish.
I'm actually enjoying this because it looks very peaceful, very safe, and it looks like it's a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous day out there, and they have nice wind. So this is kind of, you can go day sailing, or you can go racing like this, and it's nice because it's very visceral. It's physical, but it's also really mental. You have to pay attention to what's going on
Right.
with the sailing. So
What is oh, there you are. I love that. You're in like a little bubble. So, so what is the ideal wind speed to go sailing?
it depends. If you're a beginner sailor, it's
Yes.
probably 8 to 10 knots of breeze. And if you are, if you're someone who's racing, then you would probably like more breeze than that. And then if you're really a crazy sailor, you want a lot more wind. And if you're a windsurfer, you want it to be blowing like 25 knots with white caps. And so it depends on what level of sailing and what you want to do.
Now, how often do you go sailing?
I go sailing at least once a week
You do?
because I teach sailing once
You
a
still
week.
teach sailing now?
Yeah, on Wednesdays.
Where do you teach sailing?
I teach sailing at MIT.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And where at MIT do you teach? On the Charles River?
On the Charles River, the MIT has a sailing pavilion, and I used to manage the sailing pavilion.
Okay.
And then when I left working there, I was still working at MIT, I decided I would coordinate the volunteers who teach the classes. And so then I still coordinate the volunteers who teach the classes, and I still teach sailing.
And do you teach sailing to the people who go to MIT, or are they just lay people?
At MIT, it's a little different because MIT, it's students, family, faculty, and staff. So it's all of them,
Right.
all combined. And
Okay.
so the age range can be very young up to very old, because people who work there will bring their grandchildren, and
And
so
do they have to pay, or is this part of just being an
they have
MIT
to have their
alumni?
They have to have their athletic membership at MIT.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
So
Well, that's exciting. And you
It is.
work at MIT too, right?
I used to work at MIT.
Oh, you used to work. Oh, you work
Yeah.
at Harvard now.
Yep.
You get around to all these Ivy League colleges, and you sail, and you're a good girl. Okay. This is very exciting.
So I think we're coming towards. See there, you can see the Tobin
the
Bridge
Tobin
in the
Bridge.
background,
And it still looks the same.
and see how he was kind of leaning out. They're both
Yeah.
leaning out and using their weight to balance the boat. So, and see, they just changed direction. So they just tacked. And it looks like they have about 3 people on that boat.
Is there a limit on a size boat like that, how many people you can put on there? I mean, you wouldn't want to have more than how many people on that size boat? 6?
On that boat for racing, you probably want what they have, which is 3. But if you were going to go out just to sail around for the day, you could fit a few more. It depends on, if you're just kind of sailing around, you could sort of pack a lot of people on the boat.
Right.
We have a small boat at MIT called a tech dinghy, and we say that there are 1 to 3 people on the boat, but we used to have a day camp, and we used to
Right.
pack like 8 kids per boat.
Wow.
So, but you're just going out and kind of sailing around a little bit. So, but there is generally a standard for how many people you're going to have on a boat.
So you're going to tell us this. That was great. You're going to tell us about what kind of equipment, the specifics of equipment that you use and need to go sailing. Because I know that people that have owned sailboats, they always say, "Oh, I have to go and clean it up," or I have, because if it's wood, you always are maintaining your boat. So tell us about.
There's a lot of boat maintenance. And I grew up we had a wooden boat, and so there was a huge amount of boat maintenance. And my parents had a boat just up until a few years ago, and my father would always be going, "Oh yes, the teak needs to be cleaned." But if you don't own a boat, if you join, community boating or courageous sailing or any one of those, they maintain the boats for you. So that I recommend that. I
Sure.
recommend that. It's much easier to have someone else maintain the boat for you. But if you're going to go sailing, the things that you don't actually need a lot of equipment. Usually if you're going to go to one of these places, they'll supply you with the boat, they'll supply you with the sails. So you need to bring water because you're going to have something to drink while you're out there in the sun.
Sure.
Sunscreen and sunglasses. And then it's always good to have one of those leashes that attaches your glasses in case your
right.
glasses get knocked off.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or something like that.
And a sweatshirt, just in case it gets cold, because you're out in the water.
Yeah, a windbreaker, which, will kind of block the wind. And then something that's somewhat waterproof, because if you get splashed. As far as footwear, sometimes people think, "Oh, I'm going to wear my Tevas," but they have a black sole, and you don't want a shoe that has a black sole on any of the boats because they have a white deck and they leave black marks.
Oh
And
my
you have to
goodness!
clean them all off.
Oh, that
So you
must
wanna
not
wear-
make the boat owners happy.
Right, right.
Oh,
And
yes.
you want something that's going to have a really a good sole, a rubber sole. So
Hey, that's the name
sneakers,
of an album.
rubber sole.
Yes, the
Really?
Beatles. So you want it.
So you want like a pair of sneakers,
Sure.
and like I said, I sail on the river, every week. And so what I have is an old pair of high tops,
Okay.
and then that way I can throw them in the wash every once in a while.
Oh, good.
Because after they've been in that Charles River and they dry and they get wet and they dry, they kind of take on their own little personality. So you want to
Well,
throw them in the wash every once in a while.
I'm just blown away. I didn't know that there was a side of you. This whole sailing side of you. It's very, very exciting. So what other equipment does someone need besides all the things that they have to wear? If someone owns a sailboat, what types of things does it involve? You talked about the maintenance, how your dad says he has to go clean the teak.
No, we have to clean the teak,
Oh,
meaning my
we.
sisters and I.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, that's
he's
you have to
the
labor.
skipper, so it's if we're going to go sail on the boat, we have to provide labor.
So it's a labor. It's a labor of love too.
So nowadays, most boats are fiberglass, so
Right.
you would have someone maintain it for you, but depends on the size of the boat. But you'd have to have life jackets, and most places, like at MIT, we have everyone wear a life jacket at all times. If you're under 12, you have to by law, but people say, "I'm a fantastic swimmer," but the problem is that if you get hit in the head, or something happens and you're not expecting it and you fall in the water, can you still swim as well then? So if you get hit in the head and you're unconscious,
Forget about
how good of a swimmer you
You're
are
not going to
doesn't
swim.
really matter.
You're going to be out.
Right. So you want to have something that's going to hold you up.
Right.
So life jackets,
Flashlight?
flashlights, safety equipment. You want to have a horn or something to be able to make noise to let people know if you're
What kind of
in
horn?
distress. They have air horns or
Oh, okay.
whistles or honestly, the type of equipment would depend on how big of a boat.
Now, you talk about day sailing. Where does a person go day sailing? Do you go, let's say you're going out on the harbor. Do you say, I'm going to go out 20 miles or 50 miles? How far out do you go back? Because you don't want to be caught out there when the sun goes down and you are up a creek without a paddle because you don't have a motor and you don't have any lights on the boat. So how do you know how far to go? Do you have a compass?
Some of it depends on how windy it is.
Oh, okay.
So the best thing to do is start going upwind, because if you go up, it takes a lot more effort to go upwind in a sailboat. And then when you come back home, you just sail downwind and it's a lot faster. If you're going to go day sailing in the harbor, you can just sail around and see the sights. Sail by sail by the museum that's right on the river, right on the harbor there now.
And they're shooting a movie there tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, just check out all the sites, or you could go out to George's Island and, anchor and have lunch. There's all sorts of places you can
So when you
sail
go
around
to the
to.
island, do you have to pay a fee to dock the sailboat, or can you just put it any way you want?
If you're going to actually land there, then yeah, I think you probably have to pay a fee. I have pretty much gone out and then you just drop anchor and then take a dinghy in.
Where is the dinghy? Is there like a dinghy just hanging out? Just
Well,
like,
if you have
oh.
something bigger than the sailboats that we just saw sailing,
Right.
then you could bring along an inflatable dinghy
Oh,
that
an
you tow
inflatable
along.
dinghy.
Yeah, that you tow along
very
behind
cool.
you, or
And it
something
just
like
self
that.
blows up.
No, it's already blown up, or you have a foot pump to blow it up.
Oh, okay. You
Or
don't
you
blow
bring
it up
your
by-
friend and you don't tell them that that's the job you're going to make them do.
You have
up.
to make them blow it up by their
Okay,
mouth.
that would take a really long time. You'd have to bring someone who really had a lot of hot air.
That would be a cruel joke. Now, are people allowed to drink on sailboats? Is that like inappropriate? Because people are known to like drink out at sea. Oh, let's get a drink, which seems to me very dangerous because you've got to be like, as you say, aware. So do people drink when they're sailing?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of drinking going on.
I mean,
when you're
it's like
sailing.
if you get caught drinking on
Well,
the road.
it depends. I mean, if you're racing, you probably not. You probably drink after the race.
I mean, is there anyone to monitor the drinking? If you're drinking and driving, you get in big trouble. You can't do it. What is the difference between drinking and sailing, or drinking and operating a boat? Isn't there like a law with that?
I have no idea. I don't know.
I can't believe you don't know the answer.
I have no idea.
Okay.
You'd have to have someone on the boat, I would assume, who is sober. But yeah, I have no idea.
Okay. You're not around.
I have not been pulled over
See,
and
you're
had
a-
everyone get a breathalyzer on a sailboat.
You're a
so.
good girl. You don't hang around with these rowdy people. But if you take our film crew, you may find out otherwise.
But so you can take some food, you can take some drinks, you can go out and sail around on on the harbor or on the river. I think that's something that a lot of people like to do, even from community boating. Go out one of the Mercuries and sail around and
Go out on one of the Mercuries?
yeah, community boating has Mercury sailboats.
What is that?
It's about the size of the sailboat that we just saw sailing.
Okay,
But
okay.
it's a probably a little bit smaller, and it's an open cockpit boat. And they have a fleet of them down at community boating on the river.
Okay, well, I think we have another clip that you want to show.
We do have another clip. This clip is actually one that is sailing in the harbor. It's on a Catalina, and I think it's about 25 knots that day, and then it's gusting up to 30 or 35. So it's a
Wow.
little bit windy, and
Okay.
so we'll hear there's quite a bit of wind,
Okay.
and it's a little rainy, but it's still
Oh.
a nice day to go sailing.
Okay, cool.
So
What is a Catalina? You said on a Catalina.
yeah, this is a Catalina boat. It's the type of boat. So generally they're called by whoever builds them. So a Herreshoff
Okay.
or a Catalina or an O'Day or something like that.
That looks like a very, very, very big boat.
That's probably. Well, I
30
can't tell.
feet?
I can't tell just looking at the at the bow, but it's probably, I don't know, probably about 30 feet. Yeah.
I used to
Could be a little
go.
bit longer.
I used to go out in a rowboat every single morning when I lived in Hawaii, and I used to go fishing and lay the long line, and it was very exciting to row out and just lay a big long line and catch fish and go back later in the day. This is nothing like that, but these look like serious. This looks like a serious
So
boat.
see, he's wearing a windbreaker.
Yeah.
Because it gets a little windy out
and
there.
he's wet.
And he's wet, which is why it's a good thing it's probably waterproof. because you definitely get that spray. And then see, they're towing a dinghy.
Oh, I see that. Okay, that's a pretty big boat. That looks like it's about 30 feet.
The fact that you can look at the rail and tell me that is amazing because I can't.
I don't know. What does our boating expert say? About 30 feet, guys? Yes? I'm being given a thumbs up. I used to have a tape measure boats. No, I'm joking.
I don't know, Jojo. That could have been what you did in the past life.
Yes.
So this is also out on the harbor.
And it looks like there is, it looks like it's overcast and it's raining a little bit.
No, I think it's actually sunny. I think it's that there's probably some salt water on the lens. So I don't think it's actually that overcast.
Is this what you call cruising? Or what they were doing?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, cruising is you can go out like over the weekend, or you could go out for a week. You could go out for a month. You could sail around the world.
Yeah, isn't that like dangerous?
Because
you never know what's gonna happen. You're out in the ocean. You have no. I mean, the ocean could change in a split of a second, and you're just there with the water. It can swallow you up.
Yep.
Have you ever gone cruising? Do tell us about it, Melita.
I have gone cruising. We used to go sailing every summer for a month or a month and a half with my parents on the sailboat.
You're kidding.
So
where did you go?
We would go up the coast, so up the coast to Maine and back down, or we'd go to Noank and all kinds of places in Connecticut, go to Block Island. So we were on Block Island one time and it was rainy, there was a big storm, and so we had to stay there for a little while. And my mother and my older sister got off and, I don't know, went to do laundry or something, and I was trapped on the boat with my father, and he played some Jimmy Buffett tape over and over and over until I got cabin fever.
Can you sing the song?
Yes, it took me a few years to get over it.
Can you sing the song? Sing it.
Son of a sailor. Do you know that one?
No, but I want to hear you sing it.
But there were a few years where I couldn't listen to it.
You're not going to sing?
No.
Don't you get like, I guess cabin fever is the word, where you get like really tired of each other in that close quarters?
I got tired of that particular tape. That's what I got tired of. And we would be in a car, a year or two later, and he would go to put it on, and I'd be like,
Do you still sail with your parents?
My parents sold their boat a couple years ago, but I did up until then.
Was that tough for them to do that? I mean, since they spent so much time in the boat?
I think it was very tough for my father to sell the boat because he loves to sail. And I don't think it was as tough for my mom because she learned to love sailing, but she's not a natural sailor.
What did your dad do that he could take months off at a time?
He worked for General Foods.
Okay, so they just told him leave.
So he would, he would save up all his vacation. He'd be like, I'm leaving for a month, and they'd say, well, we need to get in touch with you, and he'd be like, I'm on a sailboat, so call over the radio.
Really?
So, yeah.
It's fantastic.
So my sisters and I would all go sailing.
And does your sister, is she a sailing buff like you?
My two sisters sail, yes. Both of them raced in college, and then I raced in college, and they still sail. I'm the one who probably sails most actively, though.
Now, what are some of the places that people go, you call it cruising? Mm-hmm. What are some of the places? Are there certain routes that people say, oh, let's go to the Bahamas, or let's go to the Bermuda Triangle? I don't think anybody sails on the Bermuda Triangle. Isn't that like dangerous?
Well, there's a regatta to Bermuda every year.
There is?
Yeah.
From Boston?
I don't know if it's actually from Boston, but somewhere here in New England, maybe Newport, and then they sail to Bermuda and back.
And how long does that take?
I think it's like week.
Now on a sailboat, you can go downstairs on some sailboats because depending on the size, right?
Yeah, some
when
of them
I say
have
downstairs, you can go
like
down.
You're going down a huge flight of stairs there, Jojo.
Well, it's a few steps. What do you call it? The cockpit? No.
Well, the cockpit is what is in the back of it, and then you go down into the cabin.
The cabin, cabin. Okay. Mm-hmm. But they sometimes have people that they hire, like interns, to sail their boat. To sail on a boat, and they do all the things, like they'll cook or they'll, right? Because I've seen things advertised like that.
Yes. My father just had his children.
So you were the
That's right.
You were like the little
Fix that
slaves.
boat. Pull in that sail.
You don't mind doesn't bother you that your father used to make you do all those things.
No.
It was cool because you love
It's
sailing
fun.
now.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Now, what age did you start sailing?
well, they all laugh because they would go out on the boat before I was born, and I have a tendency to fall asleep on boats, especially bigger boats. And so that was the big joke, was that, I started sailing at such a young age that it just puts me right to sleep. So I usually sail on smaller boats rather than like a large 40-foot boat, because if I go out on a boat like that, I tend to be asleep.
You want to stay awake.
So,
okay, I want you to share one of your most extraordinary sailing adventures.
an extraordinary sailing adventure.
One that you say, oh, this was like the best day of my life. What happened? It could be with a guy, too.
I had a very fun day where I went down to MIT, and it was really windy. There were just white caps all over the river, and I was with the guy that I was dating, and the guy who was the sailing master at the time, Skip White, we said, oh, can't we go sailing? And he was like, as long as you don't make me come and rescue you, you can go out sailing. And so we went out in an FJ, which is called a Flying Junior. It's a small 2-person sailboat, and it has a mainsail and it has a jib. And we had trouble even getting the boat off the dock. And we finally got the boat off the dock, and we capsized at one point and got the boat back up, and it was just really windy and fun. And when you get it off of the wind, they plane, and it's like flying. It's a lot of fun.
What do you mean when you plane? You kind of like
when the wind is kind of behind you, and it's
skipping.
pushing you, and you literally get up onto a wave, and the boat planes.
Oh, isn't that? It's like riding the wave.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's like being a surfer, but only you're on the sailboat.
But at one point, I turned and I said, "Are you feeling okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I said, "Okay," because he had gotten hit, and there was so much water I couldn't tell, but he just had all this blood flowing down him.
Oh.
And I was like, "Okay, as long as you feel okay." And then we got back onto the dock, and I said, "You need to go, and you just have blood covering you." And he was very squeamish, so he actually had to lie down. Then we realized that he'd gotten hit. Up here, but with the water and everything, and a head wound. So it was fun. It was exciting.
So yeah, the guy I was with. So you're going to tell us about various types of frostbiting. What is that?
Frostbiting is sailing in the winter.
Oh, that sounds awful. Who'd want to be out in the water when it's freezing out? I mean, it seems painful.
But have you ever gone skiing?
I'm not a good skier.
But have you gone skiing?
Yes, I have.
Well, it's just like skiing. I mean, when you go skiing, you wear all that gear, and you wear your hat, and you wear your gaiter.
But you're not going to get wet. I mean, you might fall.
Well, you fall a lot.
Yeah, but if you get wet in the ocean and a big wave hits you, you are wet.
You wear special gear. So you wear a hat, and you wear something, but then you wear a suit called a dry suit, and it has rubber at the neck and the wrists and the feet.
Oh,
so
you're buttoned up.
Yeah, so you're all dry. So if you go in the water, they have to pull you out of the water quickly because you only have a certain amount of time before hypothermia sets in.
How much time?
Depends on how cold the water is.
Oh,
but I was racing. So actually, I lived with a family after high school. And the family I lived with,
Your father threw you out?
He used to race. No. And he would be like, you need to race in frostbite, you'll love it. And I forgot all about it. And then I started racing in college. And my sister was frostbiting, and I decided I would like to try it. And then a couple years after I'd started frostbiting, my mom sent me this article with Mr. Gorby on there, and him racing. And I called him up and I said, I've been frostbiting for 2 years. And he's like, I used to go into your room late at night and be like, frostbiting. And he's like, but you're a pain in the ass, so it took a long time to sink in. But it's, it depends on the size of the boat. The boats that I sailed in were called inner clubs, and it's a 2-person sailboat with 1 sail. And then there's some larger boats that sail on the Boston Harbor too. There's J24s and Solings, and we actually have a clip that we could watch if we wanted to.
I would like that. So you've gone out in the Boston Harbor in the middle of winter. What's the coldest you've ever sailed on the Boston Harbor?
We have a 20/20 rule. So if it's blowing 20 and it's below 20, we don't sail.
Oh, 20/20.
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually the worst time to frostbite is if there's not a lot of wind, because you're sitting in the boat, your feet are below waterline, and it's cold.
Right.
Whereas if it's windy, then it's not so bad. It's because you're moving around, you're tacking, you're
your
hiking out,
adrenaline's
you're
going.
moving. Yeah.
The other way, you're just kind of like just standing still, and
Yeah, that's
you're just
awful.
getting cold.
That's awful. And so there's a bunch of different places that frostbite on the harbor in the winter, and
how far out do you go when you do this frostbiting?
No,
are
you're
a
pretty-
crazy chick.
you're pretty close to shore. And then you also have rescue boats there.
Do you still frostbite?
I didn't frostbite this past winter, but I did the winter before, and I'm hoping to this coming winter.
You are.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to check out this clip?
Yeah.
Okay. Frostbiting.
So this frostbiting is in a J24 out on the harbor.
Looks
And
like
so
a
you
nice
can
day.
see, like, they're wearing jackets, they're wearing hats, they've got mittens on. So, but it's pretty windy out there, so they're moving a lot. But you can see how dressed up they are.
They're all bundled up,
Yeah.
but it's good.
And so
because
they
you
just jibed. That was
Yeah.
that boom coming across. So the first year that I was frostbiting, in the summer, I met one of the guys who I'd only ever seen in the winter. And his comment to me was, "So you're so much smaller in the summer." Because, you get on the boat, you have like 9 layers on trying to
Sure.
stay warm. And you definitely you can see he's got a blue life jacket on. You absolutely wear your life jacket when you're frostbiting, because that water is very cold.
So I would say that people who do this have got to have an adventuresome type of spirit. This is not for the faint of heart. This isn't for someone who's a couch potato.
Well, I guess if you're a couch potato, you might not want to do this.
No.
Um,
No.
But if you're someone who likes to be outdoors, then this is perfect, because this is, like I said, this is very much like skiing. So you would get down there at noon, and you would get the boat ready, and the first race would start at 1 or so,
Melita.
and they wouldn't start a race after 3.
I think I'd like to do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a bigger boat than the boat that I race on in the winter.
What
I race
about
on
you,
a-
Daniel, cameraman? You want to do this?
Looks pretty nice from here.
Well, it's a beautiful day. When you said it's cold, I'm thinking of a gray sky, it's snowing.
No, actually, a lot of the days in the winter are like this. It's sunny out, and it's for anyone who has issues with not being outside in the winter, this is great.
Perfect.
You get out on a Sunday
Right.
afternoon, and
You get your vitamin D, you're all set to go.
you do, and then you hang out with some people while you're sailing, and you holler at them, and they holler at you. And
Now,
then
have any-
afterwards, you go drinking.
Now, have any romances developed from this for you, being on sailboats?
Yeah, yeah. I used to sail with my husband,
Okay.
my ex-husband.
Okay.
So I
So
guess it
you-
was a romance, and then it wasn't.
Did you meet your husband on the boat?
No, but I met him sailing.
Oh, you did? That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yep.
Now, would you date another sailor, or are they a certain type of guy? You know how they say certain people certain ways?
No, I would date someone who sails. Actually, it would be easier to date someone who sails.
Okay, well,
Because
folks, we're putting it out there. Oh, the camera's not on me. I'll say it afterwards. Can
I
I?
would definitely say, because
Do you want to put your
'cause I
email
love to
address?
sail.
Somebody wants to, if they're interested in sailing,
they could set it here at the studio.
at the studio. Okay, if you're interested in sailing with Melita, if you're interested in sailing with Melita, contact Somerville Community Access TV station, and she'll take you for a ride of your life on a sailboat. You can go frostbiting with her.
Oh, Jojo, you're going to get me in trouble.
No, I wouldn't do
Look,
that.
now see, they're sliding across the other side because they're changing direction again.
Okay. Well,
And they're
what kind
definitely-
of shoes do they have on their feet?
They have rubber boots on,
How cool! This must cost a lot
and
of money.
probably like 3 pairs of wool socks.
This must cost a lot of money. It's windy out there.
Actually, the rubber boots are pretty cheap, and they last for quite a while. So, and you can use them in the summer too.
What would you use the rubber boots for?
Sailing in the summer.
Oh,
I don't know what you're thinking, Jojo. But But you can see there's a lot of spray, so you definitely want to wear something waterproof. And I actually use all my sailing gear for biking too.
What about your skin? Do you worry about your skin?
You wear sunscreen.
I mean, will it get dry and being outdoors in the sun?
Yeah, so you wear you wear your sunblock, and some people put Vaseline on their skin to keep it from getting wind chapped in the winter.
Wow.
Cool. So there's the Boston Sailing Center. That's actually where I worked. And my friend Dave Bryan still works there.
Beautiful, and there's the website.
And they have open sailing days throughout the summer. So they'll have like an open house, and you can go down, and they'll take you for a sail. So if you just want to see what it's like.
So they don't charge you?
On the open house days, no.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. So you can go down and just go for a sail and see what it's like, and learn about all the memberships and classes that they have down there. Yeah. And they have, like I said, they have like beginner sailing all the way through. Courageous Sailing Center, that's the one that does the sailing in the harbor as well as the sailing on Jamaica
MIT.
Pond.
No, that's not the MIT. That's
no, the MIT one you have to be affiliated with MIT.
Now they used to have a sailing center on the bottom of the harbor garage by the aquarium. That was years ago.
Okay.
Because I worked outdoors.
Yeah.
In front of the aquarium, like in the early 70s, 80s, and then they moved. Do you know where I'm talking about?
It might be the Boston Harbor Sailing Center, and that's on Rose Wharf. It's to the right. Yeah.
Right. That's it.
So it might be that club.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know as much about them because they were always our rivals. So.
Oh.
You know.
This is fantastic. Now, how often do you do this during the wintertime?
Once a week.
You do this once a week in the wintertime?
Yeah, so it starts usually in October and it goes through April. And
Guys,
it's Sunday afternoons.
This is one crazy chick. She's a woman you want to be with. She'll take you on the adventure. Sailing on the Boston Harbor with Melita King. You can meet her at Somerville Community Access TV. Oh, yeah. Manager of the studio is going to come in here and start yelling at me. Yes, of course. She's a beautiful girl.
So those are lifelines.
Yes.
So you can hang on and you don't fall off the boat. I'm changing the subject here, JoJo.
Yes, I know you are. You didn't know I was going to do this to you tonight. You asked me to come on the show, and
I know. I didn't know what I was asking.
No, you didn't. Well, it seems to be a lot of guys on this boat, so.
How can you tell?
Well, they look like guys.
No, they probably are guys because it is mostly guys.
Yeah, it looks like a guy, or
in the winter.
Yeah, so ladies, if you want to meet guys, go frostbiting. This would be one place to meet them.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
JoJo, you want to meet some guys? I can introduce you to some
sailing guys. I want my own harem. I don't want one guy. I want many men.
Okay. I can introduce you to a few.
Yeah, you know. Because one is not enough. He's got to wear really nice shoes, though. You could judge a man by the shoes he wears. So, yeah.
So
that's why I was asking about the rubber shoes.
Okay.
Because that's kind of like a turn on.
Well, one of the reasons that you sail on the harbor, you can't really frostbite on the river, is because the river freezes over.
Oh, okay.
Whereas with the salt water on the harbor, it doesn't freeze, but you do end up with ice chunks.
You said the Boston Harbor doesn't freeze, but it does get icy.
You get ice chunks.
And what happens if you hit an ice chunk?
Well, when you're sailing, you actually look out for them and try to not hit them because.
But what if you hit it? Is it like hitting an iceberg?
It
like
is
on
a
the
little
Titanic?
bit. It is a little bit because what you see above water is a lot smaller than what's below the water. So you really try and watch out for them, which is why you have rescue boats and things like that. And so usually people take turns and run the rescue boat so that in case anything happens. But we've never had anything really. We've had people capsize and go in the water, but we haven't had any real major accidents.
So when it's really cold like this, if they fall in the water, you got to get them out right away.
Yeah.
Else they're dead.
Or, well, hypothermia sets in, and then they have to, go to the hospital and get warmed up. And it's important to make sure you're wearing enough clothes, and you want to wear stuff like wool because even though like the newer fabrics, everyone's like, oh, this is so great. if wool gets wet, it keeps you warm,
Really?
whereas some of the newer fabrics won't do that.
That's why animals
Yeah.
have wool on them. If they get wet, their bodies still keep warm. How amazing is that? Melita, this has been such I've learned a lot about sailing.
Good.
And you, of course, so it's wonderful. So thank you for sharing your world. So do you want to leave us with anything exciting about sailing? Could you let us know where we can go sailing around Boston again?
So Courageous Sailing Center or the Boston Sailing Center, the Boston Harbor Club. Community boating is a great place to go on the river. If you just wanted to go for a quick sail for just a little while to make a pond. So there's a lot of sailing in Boston, and it's a great way to get outside and enjoy yourself.
And when do these sailing clubs open up, most of them?
Most of them open up in April.
In April. And when do
And
they close?
They usually close in November.
At the end of November or the beginning of November?
I'm not sure, but I know that the MIT Sailing Pavilion closes November 15th, long after any, regular sailors want to sail. The fall is a beautiful time to sail, though, because it's windy, really nice and warm. It's a little bit chilly. You put a sweater on.
The sun is warm. The sun is warm.
And if you fall in the water's warm, because by that time it's been baking all
Right.
summer. So
that's good. Okay,
So-
well, I can't wait to go sailing. So you said the Boston Sailing Center,
yes,
Courageous.
but we're going to go sailing on the river at MIT.
Oh, I can't
Or maybe on the
wait.
harbor.
'Cause I love that dirty water. Oh, Boston, you're my home. Dun-dun-dum, dun-dun-dum. Down by the river, Charles. Okay, cool. I can't wait. This is going to be great. So, okay, so the Boston Sailing
Center,
Center, the Courageous
Sailing Center,
Sailing Center,
community boating,
community boating, and
the Boston Harbor Sailing Center.
okay.
And then there's some other yacht clubs and things like that, but if you really want to learn to sail, those are some great places to start. And then people are always looking for someone to crew on their boat, to go sailing with them, to help them out. So,
And you could go on Craigslist and find out who's looking for someone to help them out,
yeah.
which is a great place to do this type of thing. Because a lot of young people say, oh, I want to go sailing. And they may not have a lot of money, but someone may need their help and that sort of thing.
Right.
So it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, you can go sailing
Cool.
for very, very inexpensively.
Okay, well, this has been thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We could talk for hours about sailing. And thank you.
Thanks very much, JoJo.
Did you have fun?
I did.